Welcome into the Sportscaster and her son, where we'd like to say that sports bridges the gap between two generations. I'm Peggy Dionne, the co-host of the Bears postgame shows on the Chicago Bears radio network at ESPN Chicago, and also host of Peggy and Dionne on Saturdays at ESPN Chicago. The other generation would be this guy. Wait, where are you? This guy, my son, Jason. Hi, Jason.
Yeah, hey, Mom, somehow still doesn't sound like I'm as busy as you are, even though I'm just starting my career and you are in the twilight of years. How's training camp going?
You know, I'm glad you asked. As you can see behind me, Chicago Bears are finishing up week 2 of their camp, and they're banged up. They're really banged up. And it's not because the practices are intensely visible. They've had a couple, but, you know, they're very limited on how much they're hitting. There's no two-a-days anymore like back in the day, back in my generation, Jason, when they had two-a-days and they had the Oklahoma drill and they basically went after each other and tried to, you know, basically kill each other in practice. You know, it's just the soft tissue injuries, but the Bears are taking a beating in the secondary. Quite a few guys have gone down. Kobe Bryant, the safety that they signed in the offseason off of the Super Bowl Seahawks, suffered what you didn't realize was as gruesome of an injury, but he is out 6 months. So he is likely to miss the season for the Bears, or, you know, if he's lucky to come back in December. They've had other injuries. Cam Lewis, who was signed basically as like a utility defensive back that could play either safety as a backup or could play cornerback, nickelback, with Kyler Gordon being out. It's not good. Isaiah Hicks has also been out. He's on the PUP list with Kyler Gordon. They're really banged up in the secondary. And this weekend, we'll get the first taste of Chicago Bears football with a defensive line that really looks the same as last year. So a lot of head scratching.
I'm glad you brought up the defensive line because I want to talk about the trenches. I'll touch upon the secondary for a second because this has been the big storyline all week. It's been talked into the ground for good reason. Kobe Bryant was one of the only players on the entire defense that the Bears could not afford to lose, and now they've lost him before the season even starts. So now more is on the shoulders of the first rounder, Dylan Feineman. More is on the shoulders of the fourth rounder, Malik Muhammad. And the Bears have an even thinner secondary than they had on the onset of training camp. When you talk about thin units on this team, the defensive front is the most thin, without a doubt. I mean, there's not a whole lot of talent at the edge rusher position, proven talent, at least at the edge rusher position. You know, Montez Sweat is only getting older. You're waiting for one of those defensive tackles to maybe pop. A lot of question marks in a position group that needs to be a sure thing in order to be a Super Bowl contender. You look at the past however many teams who won the Super Bowl, they all had really strong defensive fronts. And so it's a huge question. It's a huge concern. That's going to be what everyone has their eyes on this weekend is how does that defensive front come out? How do those guys who are competing for playing time, for real important roles look? And do they stay healthy? Because the Bears can't afford to have any injuries up front now that they have a bunch of injuries in the defensive backfield. As for the offensive line, you've got a little bit of bang up there with Braxton Jones getting hurt. You got some questions at center. You don't know if it's going to be Garrett Bradbury, if it's going to be the rookie Logan Jones. Drew Dahlman retires out of nowhere. And then there's the news this week that Ozzie Trapillo might be back sooner than expected. So a lot going on up front for the Bears on defense, but also on offense.
So let's go backwards from what you were just talking about. Ozzie Trapillo, yes, that report came out from one of the national reporters that Trapillo could be back after having a kneecap injury in the postseason last year.
Patellar tendon.
Patellar tendon. So here's the thing, and this is, you have to take the Ben Johnson approach. You don't plan on anybody that's not in camp. You don't plan on anyone that's not here, whether it's Ozzie Trapillo, Montez Sweat has been out, whether it's Kyler Gordon. We know Kobe Bryant is out. You have to deal with the guys you have. And the emphasis is going to be on the coaching this year, to coach the best you can out of these guys. Austin Booker is going to be asked to do a lot more. Dayo Odeyingbo is being moved inside to get a little interior pass rush going. And Shamar Turner, who also has been injured, out with a knee injury and on the PUP list. A lot's expected out of him as a second-year guy that they think they may have found something out of him last year. And then when you move inside, you got a lot of age with Grady Jarrett, but you've got the leadership there. You have Jervon Dexter Sr., who is looking for a new contract. You have new guys in Neville Gallimore, Contavious Street, James Lynch, Jordan Vandenberg, who I said from day one after they drafted him that my eyes are on him, a 6th-round pick that was overlooked. I love this guy. And they suddenly have been putting him in with the ones. And when they do that with someone, they're basically saying, show us what you got. And Ben Johnson said this last week. We're going to put you with the 3s. Okay, now you've showed that you can beat up the 3s. Now we're going to put you with the 2s. Okay, you can hang with the backups. Now let's see what you can do with the 1s. So I really like Jordan Vandenberg. It'll be interesting to see. But Jason, you're right. When it comes to the defensive line, 27th in pass rush, the 27th ranked quarterback pressures, 27th ranked stop in the run. The defensive line has to get better. And on the offensive side, left tackle, Ozzy Trapillo is not here. So you can't plan on him. Braxton Jones got injured, and that means that Karan Amagaji has been getting those reps at left tackle with the ones rotating along with Jedrick Wills. Jedrick Wills is such an interesting guy. They're trying to tap that first-round talent out of him. He wasn't even in the NFL last year, injured. So if they can do that, you're looking at coaching on both offensive and defensive lines that really has all the pressure at this point in camp.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that coaching is always really important on those position groups in particular, because you want to coach these guys to stay strong throughout the season. You want to coach them to work as a unit. You want to coach them to be, at least on the offensive side, a group that Caleb Williams and the quarterbacks can really trust. And when you have so many new moving pieces, especially a new center who is that captain of the offensive line, there's not a whole lot of guarantees, even when you have an all-pro caliber right tackle in Darnell Wright, when you have an all-pro caliber guard in Joe Thuney. Still so many questions on this offensive line, which is objectively the most important unit on this Bears team this year, because they protect Caleb Williams in year 3, and you're wanting Caleb Williams to take that year 3 jump. He can't take that year 3 jump if he's taking as many hits as he's taken in his first 2 seasons. So you're hoping that offensive line simultaneously takes a year 3 jump with him, even though some of these guys are in their first year in Chicago, second year, only a couple in their third.
And what a perfect segue to bring in our guest, former Bears center, Jay Hilgenberg. Let me give him some of the credentials we got here.
There you go.
I think you were, 13 years in the NFL, Browns, Saints, and of course the 85 Bears, all pro, 7-time Pro Bowler. You and I think the entire Hilgenberg family came out of the Iowa School of Offensive Linemen. Welcome into the podcast. We really appreciate you coming on, Jay. Welcome in.
Thank you. Yes, my uncle, though, was a linebacker, and his son was a defensive end.
How did that happen?
Well, I mean, my uncle said he was the only Hilgenberg that didn't play with that thing between his legs. So
I do want to talk, though, Jay, about your Iowa roots here.
Sure.
I mean, my goodness, from Hayden Fry to Kirk Ferentz, they are churning out the offensive linemen. And it can't just be all about those Iowa farm boys. What is it about Iowa that turns out such great offensive linemen? And we'll get into talking about it with the Bears as well.
Yeah, I mean, it's recruiting. I think, Hayden Fry and Kirk Ferentz both really believe to have a good team, you have to have an offensive line. You got to have the offense and defensive line. And really, Kirk Ferentz has been amazing what he's done. He came, he was an assistant coach under Hayden Fry, and he was the offensive line coach, and just his fundamentals that he teaches are fantastic. And he's just continued on since Hayden Fry, just Hall of Fame career that he has had coaching at Iowa. The thing about Kirk Ferentz, what he does, Iowa runs a professional type of system. Everything they run is just mimics the NFL. And I've had Bears coaches in the past tell me all the time that they will constantly call Iowa and ask about possible free agents because they like bringing those guys into camp because they fit right into every drill that they have. And it just proves successful. I saw an article the other day in some Iowa paper or something that there's 50 guys from Iowa right now in the NFL rosters.
Wow.
So what are the Bears getting in Logan Jones in your typical Iowa polished offensive lineman? We don't know yet. Sounds like he's most likely going to play center, but he kind of played all over the place, can play all over the place. What are the Bears getting in him?
Just unbelievable strong. This guy is a monster in the weight room, and that's a real tradition in Iowa. Also, is their strength program. What they do, they produce these guys that are strong. I was up at the mini camps that they had and met Logan actually for the first time. I feel embarrassed that I should have known him while he was playing at Iowa. I'm from Iowa City. But that was the first time I met him. Just a great kid. I just like the way his body's thick, and he's not a real tall guy, so he can play the leverage game too. And I think he's going to be a stud in there. But they got the Bradbury there now, who's the veteran. But the NFL's changed a lot, over the years. Where the young guys, you got to play the young guys as soon as you can to see what they got, and so it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I think Bradbury was a great pickup. With Dahlman retiring, they had to secure that position before the draft because you never know what you're going to get.
Yeah, back to Logan Jones for a little bit here, Jay.
Sure.
I read somewhere that people were like, oh, come on, everyone's overhyping him. He's not Tyler Linderbaum. He's Tyler Linderbaum light. He's a former defensive lineman that moved over. What is it besides his that you see that the coaches and the Bears saw and the scouts saw in taking him as early as they did?
Well, I think it's his strength, that he's strong. He proves that he's flexible, which I think that's a really important thing for a center is to be very flexible. And just his intelligence. He comes from the pro system, and I believe Tyler Linderbaum was a defensive lineman also coming up when he first went to Iowa. And in fact, one of the best guards in Bears history, Mark Bortz, played defensive line his whole career at Iowa. So I like that mentality of the defensive lineman converting over to the offensive line. So he's played 2 or 3 years as a starter at Iowa, and it was very solid.
Okay, shifting gears.
I think he's gonna be fun to watch just to see how the whole transition goes and see how they handle that position.
With Bradbury, it's interesting because the center, as you know, being the center on a Super Bowl winning team, you're the captain of the offensive line, and a good offensive line has good synergy, good chemistry, kind of moves as one. What's the center's role in that, and how is that going to be different for the Bears this fall with a new center?
It'll be a lot of communication. I look for Logan Jones probably to play a lot in the preseason to really see what they have, and maybe the starters play a little bit more. But that will be an interesting watch. See how they split up the reps. I haven't heard any word from what camp is going, if they're rotating him in with the ones at all.
No,
not at all. So yeah,
no.
Shows a lot of respect to Bradbury there, and I'm sure he'll help Logan Jones as much as he can, and That will be, for me especially, an interesting watch, see what happens. But there's a learning curve. I mean, I remember when I first started playing in the NFL. I mean, it's a lot different though too. I mean, these guys nowadays come into the NFL. I mean, they're ready. They're a lot more ready than, my rookie year was 1981. I came to Chicago, and at the University of Iowa, I had never lifted a free weight in my life. We had like Nautilus machines, and thank God Clyde Emmerich, who was the strength coach there, he got me in the weight room instantly and had me, doing heavy squats, dumbbells, bench press, and and that's what Logan Jones has been doing this. These guys do this all through their college career now, so it's younger guys can come in and play a lot quicker.
But there's still that adjustment, Jay, to the speed of the defense. You might face one or two All-Americans, in a game, right. But at the NFL level on a Sunday, you may be facing them on the entire defensive line. The defenses are more complicated now. The offenses are so intricate. Ben Johnson is right. Just a mastermind. So there's a lot for Logan Jones to learn, isn't there?
Yeah, I think mentally that'll be the biggest jump for him, is trying to get the system down. I heard it is pretty complicated and intense, and these guys got to do a lot of studying to do it. But I found out when I played in college, the speed of the game, you get the NFL, it gets quicker. And after my college eligibility was up, and you played in those bowl games like the Hula Bowl, I played the Japan Bowl, and you went against some of the top athletes, I could recognize the speed was faster, and you adapt to that. You catch on to that. And then the NFL was even faster. And I found the NFL to be easier than college football, because my game was speed. My game was quickness and leverage and fundamentals, hand placement. And in the NFL, you're on the field with a bunch of really good athletes. So it felt like the game was played a lot more on your feet. You weren't tripping over guys that were slower or falling down. So I found the NFL game, once you get caught up with that speed, it was an easier game.
Can I, Jason? I just want to follow up real quick. Do you know much, Jay, about Dan Rochar and what he coaches? Because sometimes, I know that some of the old guys get upset sometimes when they see what the offensive line coaches are teaching. What is it that he's teaching? Is he more the old school, or is there a new wave of teaching O-linemen?
No, I think Dan is really good. I actually, this off season, I went up and met Dan because I read his bio. This is kind of interesting. He's from Clinton, Iowa. And I'm from Iowa City, and Clinton was in our conference. So I would have played against Dan in high school. So I wanted to go up and meet him, and met his assistant offensive line coach, Kyle. And these guys are good. I'm really happy with that, the way they're coaching and their philosophy of coaching. And I think that has been kind of the problem for the Bears for years, is their offensive line, is that they didn't really invest in the offensive line. If you look back over the years, the Chicago Bears, when they had their good teams, like the year or two before I came in the NFL, I know the Bears made it to playoffs and got beat at Philadelphia. And they had a good offensive line then with Dennis Lick and Noah Jackson, Dan Neal, Reeve Sorey, Ted Albrecht. Those guys were good players. And then, of course, our era that we had it. And then the last Super Bowl with Tate and Reuben Brown and Olin, Roberto Garza, Fred Miller. That was another good offensive line. So this offensive line the Bears have right now is solid, and they have good competition going on too, which makes them better with what's going on at left tackle and of course that center position.
That was going to be my last question for you, is how does this Bears offensive line, particularly at the center position, take that step up from last year 1 under Ben Johnson, to now year 2 under Ben Johnson?
Well, I think, with the new addition at the center position, we talked, and I should say about with Joe Tooney too in there at left guard, and is it Jackson at right guard?
Yeah, Noah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Jonah.
Yeah, Jonah Jackson. That when I first started playing, I was playing in between a Noah Jackson and Reeve Sorey, which, I mean, that's a way to bring a rookie in also too. But, the rookie has to stand up for himself a little bit too in that offensive line. When you were talking about earlier about being the captain, making the calls, that you can't get overruled by, future Hall of Famer there on your left side. So it's going to be a fun season to watch these guys and see how they come together.
Before we let you go, Jay, and we really appreciate you coming on, the changeover from Drew Dahlman now to Bradbury, who could be a placeholder just for Logan Jones, is this going to affect the development of a young quarterback like Caleb Williams?
No, I don't think so. I think Caleb has proved so much this past year that his ability to adapt to situations and overcome stuff that happens on the field. I don't think it'll make any difference at all. I wouldn't be concerned about that at all. It's Caleb Williams. It's just some of those games last time. I mean, have we ever seen football games so amazing?
Unbelievable.
I mean, it was just unbelievable year. It was so much fun, and that's the thing about I think this season coming up is it seems like the last couple of years before Ben Johnson got here, it was like to fire everybody up. It was all right, we got Khalil Mack for a trade, and we drafted Justin Fields. That got the fans excited. Now the fans are excited about the Chicago Bears. So it's going to be a fantastic year to watch, see how they do.
You got to block for Walter Payton. Could you imagine blocking for a scrambling Caleb Williams?
No, you made me something pop in my head right there when you said that. I remember Jim Harbaugh's first time he got into a game. It was like that Monday night out in San Francisco, and we were getting killed. He comes out. He starts the third quarter. We're down, 30 points. First play, he drops back to pass, and he scrambles. It must have lasted 25, 30 seconds, his scramble. And we're just gassed after that play. And I look at Harbaugh, and I go, hey, Jim, we're down by 30 points. Just drop back and throw the ball.
That's great stuff.
Jay, thank you so much. We really appreciate catching up with you and seeing what you're seeing from the eyes of a former center, an all-pro center, and if I may add, someone who should be in Canton in the Hall of Fame. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, Jay Hilgenberg joining us here on the podcast. Jason, just really, it's fabulous. It's just wonderful to have him. Great to hear from him, and great to hear, his perspective as well as to what the Bears are dealing with on the offensive line.
Mom, one of the best pieces of advice I've gotten this summer is that if you're going to talk offensive line, you need to have a chaperone with you who actually played offensive line. Mission accomplished today for us. We had one of the best centers in Chicago Bears history talking the offensive line and the center position with us today. Just awesome insight from Jay Hilgenberg on the Sportscaster and Her Son podcast.
He anchored one of the best rushing attacks in NFL history with Matt Suey and Walter Payton. So I'd love to hear his point of view as well. Well, Jason, I'm going to go up and talk to some of the Bears assistant coaches right now and get an idea for what Dan Rochar thinks of his new young rookie center as well. And I'm looking forward to adding that to another one of our podcasts.
Absolutely, Mom. It's going to be great talking more football as the season inches closer and closer. The Bears kick off the preseason this weekend. Another benchmark football season coming right up.
All right. Great to talk to you, Jason. Everyone, if you're watching us on our YouTube channel, please make sure you subscribe. Tell your friends about it as well. And don't forget, you can also check out the audio portion wherever you may get your pods. Let's talk again in another week or so, Jason, all right?
Let's do it, Mom. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks for joining us, everyone.